we're our greatest obstacle to a better world. But I do think that we can create a world where everyone has not just the basic food and the basic needs in life, but real opportunity to elevate and enhance their life.
Okay.
And that's the kind of life I like fighting for.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love how positive you are, man. That's I wish more people thought that way, for real. Part 2 with Erwin McManus. Spoke at your event the other day, and it was beautiful, man, meeting your community. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, it was so much fun to have you. Everybody loved you.
Yeah, that was my first time at a church in, man, 15 years.
I don't know if it counts as church. It was it was a building where a church meets.
Yeah. Well, I got to meet the people that attend the church,
Yes,
I guess,
cool.
and it was cool to get reintroduced to that community.
That's wonderful.
'Cause
They're wonderful people.
Yeah, because I told you I had a bad taste from religion growing up.
Yeah.
So, and that's probably a common issue you see, right?
I think religion gives everyone a bad taste.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of religion, but I'm deeply spiritual, and I have a profound faith in Jesus, but that's not religion to me. Religion is human beings trying to earn God's acceptance or his love, and it's the opposite for me. You don't have to earn it. You just receive it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very unique take.
Yeah.
Have you always had that, or is that something
No, I grew up completely irreligious.
Oh, okay.
I never walked into any kind of religious building or anything like that, really, and was a philosopher in college. Read every mythology book by the time I was in 6th grade. So I was always inquisitive and really, really curious, but didn't know anything about the idea of God on a deeply personal level. So it was only in college that I began to really explore it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Election just ended. I'm sure that's a relief for you.
Oh, I'm so glad it's not really over, but it is, at least phase 1 is over, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of division because of it, right?
It's amazing how much emotion is involved for people. And I think some of it is that some people only have hope in political systems.
Yeah.
They only have hope in their candidate. And so when their candidate loses, they're devastated.
Devastated.
And then their candidate wins, and later they're disappointed because no candidate ever lives up to everything they promised. And so there's always a level of human disappointment.
Yeah, I read these comments, man. Some people are so passionate.
I know.
And it's like, wow, I have very little emotion tied to politics personally.
Yeah, me either.
So for me, it's just interesting to see these visceral reactions.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the sociology of it. I'm really curious to see what happens, how people feel, how things are communicated, how many things are distorted, how much is actually documented accurately. And so I think I look at it from a more objective perspective.
Right.
I don't really have as much emotion as everyone who seems to live and die with it.
And it seems money has really changed politics from its inception.
Well, in its inception, remember, we didn't start politics. But American politics was always the field or the playground of the rich. I mean, Washington and Jefferson and Adams, Franklin, they were the most educated, most affluent people. So the idea that money has suddenly affected American politics would, I think, maybe be skewed. Money always affected American politics.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Money doesn't corrupt people. Money just allows people to become a larger version of themselves. And so if you're not corrupt at the core, money will not corrupt you. But,
wow. That's deep. I got to think about that one. I just feel like a lot of politicians get corrupted by
early
money.
on.
By money, though.
Yeah, but I think they're more corrupted by power. And then the money helps them get the power.
Got it.
And so the
really
money
the
is really a
power.
vehicle to get what they really want, which is power.
And power has always been an issue over time, right?
All of human history.
Yeah, you see it as soon as we were made. I mean, people with territory, conquering the world, Alexander the Great.
The moment we try to impose our will on someone else's life, it becomes an issue of power.
Is that something you think that you kind of just have as a human and you got to fight against it? Or do you think...
I think it's inherently important to have a sense of power that you don't feel powerless in life. And so that you can create the life you dream, you imagine you want. But I also think there's a corruption in it where we become win-lose. The proof that I'm powerful is someone else is powerless. And if we can work from a different perspective, that it's win-win, that your power doesn't diminish my power. Just like your greatness doesn't diminish my greatness, or your wealth doesn't diminish my capacity for wealth. And so you have to have an open system, an abundance mindset that says there's enough for everyone and more. If you have a really limited system, there's only so much, then you fight for what's limited.
Right.
And it creates a greater sense of violence.
Do you think that system is scalable in the masses, though?
I do.
For everyone to win and have power?
I do. I'm
Really?
an idealist, yeah.
Wow.
I do. I look at the Earth's resources. Do you realize there's enough food on this planet to feed every human being? I mean, just if we stop paying farmers not to farm, if we didn't try to control the economics of farming, we actually have enough food on this planet to feed everyone.
Wow.
There are enough resources on this planet for everyone to live well. And so it's not an issue of resources. And it's really an issue of power.
So, because 78% of people can't afford $1,000 expense right now. So, is there a time in society where you can see everyone being financially, wealthy?
I think I can see a time in society where, well, one, I'm only dealing with ideals. Human beings, we're our greatest obstacle to a better world. But I do think that we can create a world where everyone has not just the basic food and the basic needs in life, but real opportunity to elevate and enhance their life.
Okay.
And that's the kind of life I like fighting for.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love how positive you are, man. I wish more people thought that way, for real. A lot of people are just hoarding mentalities, right?
No, that's right. And you hoard when you have a limited resource mindset.
Right.
I need to hold on to it because there's not enough for everyone. And it's just like with ideas. I mean, I don't build things. I don't build cars or houses or technology. My competency is ideas, and I have thousands of them. And I've seen so many people steal my IP over the years, and my team will get really upset when someone steals my intellectual property. And I tell them, look, when someone steals your idea, it means they don't have any. And so why should I get upset when someone who didn't have any steals one of mine? I have 1,000 more. The ones they can't steal are the ones I haven't thought of yet.
Wow.
And so if you have an unlimited resource mindset, it creates in you an incredibly generous relationship toward the world.
I love that. It reminds me of Elon, how he released the electric vehicle patents.
That's right.
He wanted the whole world to have them.
Yeah, because I think he's absolutely confident that he can create something else.
I mean, he already has multiple times. Man.
Yeah, that's right.
He's also changing social media. People can speak their truth now.
It's really interesting to see what he's done. And it makes you wonder if media had gone to the far right, because it clearly went to the left.
Yeah.
But if it went to the right, I wonder if someone like Elon would have just bought it to go to the left. Because I think he's actually more committed to the free expression of thought than to a particular political or ideological end.
Agreed. I think that was needed at the time because there was a lot of censorship.
Oh, so much.
I'm sure you dealt with that.
I have. I don't want to go into detail because I don't want to get censored again.
I've lost. I got banned last week on TikTok.
Last week?
Yeah, I got it back, but
we got banned last week on Facebook.
Let's go. Join the club.
There you go.
It's so crazy though, because I'm just having conversations. It's not like we're spreading propaganda.
No, but
intentionally.
Conversations are the most powerful things in the world, so you know.
Right. Yeah. I know, man. We got to talk marriage. 40 plus years. Congrats.
Oh, thanks so much.
I'm getting married next year, so I definitely want to learn from you.
Oh, congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah, we're 7 years in, but I know there's a lot more improvement to be made.
Well, my wife right now, Kim, she's in North Carolina in the mountains with a team from Mosaic, working with the people who have lost their homes, lost their livelihood, and lost their dreams. And they're rebuilding houses and helping families in the mountains of North Carolina that were devastated by the hurricane and the floods there. And she sent me a little video. She goes, can you give us a caption? And I just sent her, we rebuild dreams. Because rebuilding a house, anyone can do that. But rebuilding dreams takes a real art.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Shout out to her because she didn't need to do that.
No, but she grew up there.
None of your team did. Oh, she grew up there?
And her sister manages the government project where they grew up. So it's full circle.
Wow.
And is there helping the people who are working their way out of poverty.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah, 40 years. How'd you two meet?
We met getting our master's degrees.
Nice.
Yeah.
In college.
Just after college, getting our master's, and she was a really interesting person. I met her playing racquetball, pretty much, and I actually had a work I was doing with homeless people on the street, and she came and volunteered out there, and that's the first place I remember seeing her.
Nice.
Just out there. She's always had that kind of heart to work with people who are refugees or outcasts or economically, struggling with the poor. So that's always been her.
Her giving nature attracted you?
It did. Not only that, her almost, I would say, reckless, but fearless nature. That the first time I saw her, she was having a conversation with one of the most violent men that I knew in the inner city.
Whoa.
And one of the guys came up to me and said, "Hey, that girl's talking to that guy. Do you want me to stop her?" And I said, "No. She wants to come down here and work. Let her interact with him." And he was a pretty brutal human being. Of course, we were watching to make sure she was okay. But you just realized this girl is fearless. And she'd go into the government projects in some of the most violent places in the cities and just serve and help people. And that's what really attracted me.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Fearless. Yeah, that's a rare thing these days.
It is.
Being fearless, there's a lot of fear these days.
People are absolutely paralyzed by fear. It's crazy.
Oh, man, I was for a while.
I mean, one of the interesting things culturally is that when you have more of something, you have more language to describe it. So when you have, let's say, snow, I think the Inuit Eskimos have 30 to 40 different words to describe snow. But I'm from El Salvador. We don't have any. And we have the same word nieve for snow that we used for ice cream.
Yeah.
Because you could double up one cold word because there's not a lot of cold things there. I think it's in Indonesia, there are an endless number of words for the color green. The more you have of something, the more language you have to describe it. Well, when I was growing up, and I'm much older than you, we had one word or two to describe any kind of mental or psychological trauma. You're crazy.
Yeah.
That was it. But now we have all these words for fear. We call it anxiety, panic attacks, stress. We have an endless number of descriptions for different experiences of fear, but they're all rooted in fear. This deep paralysis that the outside factors have more control over our life than our own inside factors.
That is interesting. Yeah, there's so many labels now for mental health.
Yeah.
Fear, anxiety, panic. Yeah, I struggled with panic attacks for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And I think some of it is we have grown up in a more safe environment than almost any time in human history. And so if you grow up in a safe environment, you do not always develop the skills for dealing with an unsafe environment. And then if you have instability or things are out of control, then you don't have predictability.
Right.
And that creates distress, and that creates anxiety, that creates fear.
Yeah, everything's so easy these days.
Yeah.
You order groceries to the house, eating 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Everyone's overweight. Yeah, I wonder what it'd be like living back in the day.
I lived back in the day, so there you go.
I meant when we were hunting and stuff, but...
Yeah, there are people still hunting to this day.
That's fascinating to me.
It is to me too. I mean, but think about that you only eat if you hunt effectively, if you kill.
Right.
And so you don't have a guarantee. And so you're not really stressing out on the same things that we're stressing out over.
Right.
Because you're focusing on survival needs. And there's some sense that the luxury of success is anxiety. The luxury of success is depression. Because the moment you have those basic needs met, now you're asking the question, does life have any meaning? Is this all there is?
Yeah.
Do I have any value? Do I have any self-worth? Those are questions that you get to ask when you're not running from the lion.
Facts. I've asked those questions. I used to get those thoughts at a super young age, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, in like 4th grade.
Yeah.
I would ask, like, why am I here? What's my purpose?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I wonder if a lot of people deal with that.
I think there are certain kinds of personalities that ask those questions earlier. And by the time I was 10 years old, I was in a psychiatric chair.
Jeez.
And I spent 6 months in and out of a hospital. And it was all, from what I was told, psychosomatic. And I was asking those questions, and I was really traumatized by trying to make sense of life. And I look back now and I realize some of it was environmental. I'm an immigrant from El Salvador. Spanish was my first language. I never knew my real father. I have one vague memory of him. I'm not sure if it's a memory where people told me the story, and I remember the story.
Yeah.
He was a guy who spoke multiple languages, maybe 6 or more, but was also an alcoholic. And then my mom became a Pan Am stewardess, so she left me with my grandparents. So from the day of my birth, my grandparents raised me for the first few years.
Wow.
And then my mom came back and brought me to Miami. So you have all that instilled trauma at a very young age. But we have to remember, humans are incredibly resilient.
Yeah.
Like my brain wouldn't go, oh, this isn't right, because it's the only path I ever knew. So I didn't know other people had different paths. And our brains are incredibly resilient, but what does happen is when you go through a lot of instability, a lot of trauma early on, oftentimes you start asking different questions than someone else who didn't. And so if you're asking those questions in 3rd, 4th grade, it really means there are certain things in your life that were so unstable that it caused you to ask deeper questions in life.
Wow. Never thought of it that way. Thank you.
So we have the benefit of growing up with instability, which allowed us to begin to ask big, broad questions.
The benefit, yeah. Some people wouldn't say that's a benefit, but when you zoom out, it probably is.
I look at everything that you can adapt into a resource that allows you to be better and to make the world better as a benefit.
Yeah. I love that. For me, it was probably my parents' divorce at a young age, and getting bullied, and those two combined, I think, is enough to start questioning life. Yeah. Were you getting bullied growing up too? Yeah. And, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I think Sean, probably we had a similar experience, and I just always. You ever felt like everyone else fit in, but you didn't?
Yeah.
And you didn't figure out who sent the formula home. This is how you fit in school. And I never got the memo, that told me how to fit in.
Yeah.
And so I always feel like an outsider. But in that sense, I'm even grateful for that because I think I'm incredibly sensitive to people who are outsiders. I feel like I developed this high level of empathy because I knew what it was like to be an outsider looking in.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely me. I was literally watching videos on how to talk to girls. I had no game. I was not confident at all.
Yeah.
I lacked a lot of confidence growing up. Didn't have that father figure. My parents got divorced. And it showed in sports. It showed in personal life for sure. Yeah, not having that father figure is tough, man.
It is. I think it's understated and undervalued how important it is to have a father and to have that person who can model for you both strength and tenderness at the same time.
Yeah. But I will say, having gone through that, now I want to become the best father possible.
That's awesome. That's the best way to solve the problem.
Right.
Is to be the better version of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to be a parent one day, man.
That's
I've
awesome.
met your kids. It's been great getting to know them.
Yeah.
So well done.
Thanks. Yeah. The two things in my life that I feel most proud of are Aaron and Mariah.
I love it.
My son and daughter. Yeah.
Were you working nonstop in the early years with them?
I was, and I wasn't independently wealthy.
Yep.
Aaron experienced a little more of poverty than Mariah. Those 3 years make a difference.
Yeah.
And when my wife and I were married, we were sleeping on the floor because we couldn't afford a bed. So came from pretty significant financial crisis. I think for maybe 10 years, I never made more than $15,000, $16,000 a year.
Dang.
Yeah. Because I spent those years working with urban poor, working with people in the world of prostitution and drugs, with gangbangers and cartels, and so there's not a lot of money in that unless you take the illegal, and distribution. But so we lived pretty poor, but we were so incredibly happy and fulfilled and content. And so when Aaron was born, we really started with nothing, zero, and so he grew up a little bit in that.
Got it.
For a few years, and he knew what that was like. And then Mariah, she touched on it just a little bit, but not as much. So I'm really grateful that, I'm kind of grateful that Aaron got to be a part of that early journey.
Yeah.
Because the appreciation for what we do have now and what we have accomplished, I think is way greater because he remembers, what it was like. I mean, for us, eating out like big time was going to Sizzler.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a really cheap steakhouse, and we would go there because they had all you can eat for kids.
Oh, nice. Golden Corral.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. It's basically the Golden Corral.
Yeah.
And so I look back and I realize the things that for us were such a luxury are now things that are just almost like insignificant to us, and that's a wonderful thing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Gratitude, man.
Yeah.
I write 10 things every morning.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I've done that, and it's helped me a lot. Now they're doing studies on how it actually helps your brain health too.
Absolutely. About 20 years ago, I wrote a book on internal change, how people actually grow. And I have an entire chapter on gratitude. And one of the things that now neuroscience has shown about gratitude is that they describe it as the lubricant of the brain. Grateful people have more adaptive, pliable, and vibrant brains. Ungrateful people rigidify their brains, become less adaptive, and actually are more prone to things like late development, like mental illnesses, like Alzheimer's. And so one of the best ways to keep your brain adaptive, pliable, and alive is gratitude.
Love that.
It's so beautiful.
So you got to be careful if you're stubborn.
Or if you're ungrateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, that was a big shift I had to make, actually. My father was super pessimistic, like beyond you can even imagine.
Wow.
Like you tell him any news and it's just a negative reaction. So when you grow up around that, it kind of rubs off on you.
Yes.
So I would say I wasn't grateful for the life my early years. So it took some time to reflect on that.
Well, have you felt your brain getting more adaptive and flexible in life?
I have, yeah. The podcast has definitely opened it up, and I've gotten multiple brain scans now, and it's looking good. It's looking a lot better.
I love that.
I had some childhood trauma on the first scan. Just got another scan last week. All gone.
Oh, that's amazing.
Incredible, man. So that's the power of talking with people like you, man.
That's a brain flex. That's better than having a washboard stomach.
Yeah. You said earlier you were happy while you were poor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible to me.
I think a lot of times people think happiness is connected to your external circumstances, and it's not at all. Happiness is really a state of inner well-being. And if you can look at life on a spectrum, what's crazy is you can have great experiences and still be unhappy. You can have great wealth, a lot of things, and still be unhappy. The one thing that really measures or defines or shapes your happiness are healthy relationships. If you have healthy relationships and great experiences, they become lifelong memories that bring adrenaline and become a source of joy throughout your life. If you have great relationships and great success, that success is fulfilling and enjoyable. But if you achieve great success and have terrible relationships, you'll actually remember that period as a dark period in your life.
Wow.
If you have terrible relationships and great experiences, you will not remember those experiences fondly. And so one of the things I've really realized in life is that a part of maturity is moving from seeing life as the attainment of things or experiences, but it's about relationships. And when you have healthy relationships, that helps define everything else in your life. And I think a lot of my happiness came from, one, being married to Kim and realizing, wow, I have this person I get to do life with. And building my life around trying to have as healthy relationships as I could. And then it was expressing gratitude. I was just simply grateful for life. I think one of the interesting perspectives is when someone thinks that life owes them something, or the world owes them something, or your parents owe you something. I think early on I came to a conclusion that no one owed me anything, and that every day when I woke up and took a breath, that was a gift, and I had a choice to make to fill that day with meaning. And so one of the things I would say all the time is that today is filled with possibilities and opportunities. And that was just the way I would posture myself every single day toward life.
Wow. What age was that?
Really a huge shift to that was around 20 years old.
Wow, that's very young to think like that. Yes. Usually that's a thought as you're dying. You know what I mean? But it's sad to see it takes a near-death experience for people to make that shift, you know, and they're much older by then. Yeah,
why is it that we need near-death experiences? We should actually be moved by near-life experiences. You know, those moments when we feel fully alive and we think to ourselves, if I can feel like this right now, why don't I try to expand what I'm experiencing to make it my life all the time?
Right. I've had a few of those moments, tears of joy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happened a few times to me.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Man. You got a new book about frequencies, right?
I do. I have a book called The 7 Frequencies of Communication. And we spent 2 years also developing an assessment so people could identify their core frequencies. And I just wanted to help people make deeper connections. The subtitle of the book is The Secret or the Hidden Language of Human Connection. The real goal of the book is to create deeper connections between people. But you cannot have deep connections without healthy communication. So if you can learn how to be heard and to hear others, it'll change your life forever.
Yeah.
And it's everything. It's, you know, communication is the key to having a healthy marriage. It's the key to having a healthy business. It's the key to every relational dynamic you will ever engage in. If you learn not just how to be understood, but if you learn how to understand other people, it changes everything in life.
Right.
So, and I wanted to not talk about like methods or tricks or, you know, methodology for communication. I want to talk about something essential. And I'm absolutely convinced that human beings are these brilliant particles and waves. And we connect as particles, and we forever connect to each other and affect each other. But we also connect as waves. And when we speak, we actually invade each other's soul space. And so when someone says, Sean, you're amazing, it actually goes inside of you. Or when someone you're 5 or 6 says, Sean, you're such a mess up, it goes deep into your soul, and it's hard to get it out of your soul. It's because our words have power.
Right.
And the frequencies from which we speak have significant effect on how they impact each other. So we identified 7 frequencies of communication, from the motivator to the challenger to the commander to the healer, the professor, the seer, and the maven. And we basically broke down those 7 frequencies and helped people identify their frequency, their cluster frequency. Like my wife, Kim, she's a commander. That's her number 1 frequency. And commanders are very utilitarian. They just want to give you enough information so you know what to do. And when you've been married for 40 years to a commander, you realize, oh, wow,
Yeah.
And when she says, take out the garbage, what she's really saying is, I love you. And, because she speaks in commands. And even when she's making a request, it sounds like a command.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah. I think if Kim said, I love you, it would come across like command. And then she wants me to communicate as clearly, but I have a very different frequency. My frequency is called a maven, which means I never answer questions directly. I answer questions with questions.
Interesting.
And,
Some people don't like that.
No, look, my kids, they're probably the only 2 kids in the world that have said, Dad, just tell us what to do. Mariah, our daughter, would go, I don't need Buddha. I don't need Yoda. I just need you to tell me what to do.
Oh, I love that.
And I'd say, well, honey, let's think about it. No, I don't want to think about it. I don't want a metaphor. I don't want a story.
Yeah.
I just want a command. So I'm the exact opposite in that relationship. And so sometimes I would get mad because Kim wouldn't do what I wanted her to do, but she didn't even know what I was asking for.
Yeah.
Because her frequency is command, so if it's not clear, it's not real. I remember one time after a few years, I just finally said to her, I said, why won't you take me seriously when I'm angry? And she said, because I don't know when you're angry. I said, how can you not know I'm angry? I literally look at you and go, I'm really angry. She goes, yeah, but there's no emotion behind it.
Wow.
And she's Irish, background, so there's a lot of emotion behind her words. And I'm Latino, so there should be a lot of emotion behind my words, but I've learned to be, I guess, very stoic. And, so if I say, Sean, this really bothers me, that's the equivalent to someone else screaming and yelling.
Interesting.
And we've had to learn how to hear each other, not just not just to be heard.
I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. Some people wear their emotion on their sleeve, right? Yeah. Whereas some people, they could say they're angry, upset, or happy, and maybe you won't even see it.
That's right. Yes.
So that's you.
That is happiness. I seem to express really naturally.
Okay.
Anger, it's a really difficult emotion for me to express, and I think it's because when I was very young, I had the potential of having a very explosive temper, and I saw the negative result of an uncontrolled emotional outburst, and it made me feel powerless. And I realized that any emotion that you do not have mastery over has mastery over you. And I did not like the feeling of having emotions have mastery over me. So I developed from a very young age the ability to have mastery over my emotions. And then I learned how to take negative emotions and process them internally, even if it meant just me taking a walk. And because I've never seen a negative emotion have a positive impact.
Negative emotion. So you mean like anger and sadness?
Well, no, sadness and anger they're just human emotions.
Yeah.
But when your anger is used to hurt, that's the use of a negative emotion.
Got it. Okay.
Or, sadness, I've been sad. I get sad. So, I don't see sadness as a positive or negative emotion. I see it as a human emotion.
Okay.
But then if I move toward depression or I move toward victimization where I'm the victim, that's where it becomes destructive.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really be productive in that state.
No, you can't. Because then you're just drowning in your own sadness.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. So this type of stuff is very important to know then.
I think it's really important to know, and I think it can really change the way a person experiences life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Going a little off topic here.
Okay, let's go anywhere you want.
Last time we talked at Mosaic, you mentioned this, and I got to bring this up because I was dumbfounded. Aliens in the Bible.
I saw that on the list of questions that you had, and I thought, Sean, why do you want to ask me about aliens in the Bible? So Here's my answer. We are the aliens of the Bible. And we always think we're the home team. But one of the things I love to think about and ponder, because I'm a person who has a deep belief in God. I'm actually a follower of Jesus, and so I have high respect for the Bible. But I think a lot of times we interpret the Bible through what we know, and rather than what is possible. So sometimes I just read the Bible and I think to myself, what is a maven approach toward reading the scriptures? And I think, Noah's Ark. Could Noah's Ark be the story of a race of humans from another planet who lost their planet through a colossal flood and had to build a spaceship that traveled across universes and landed on the earth? And that actually the story of Noah's Ark is us journeying from this other place, which is why we can't find the Garden of Eden, because it's not on this earth. It's not on the planet. And so I just love contemplating things like that. So I never want to say no, because we always think something isn't possible until it happens.
Right.
And when I read the Bible and I think about, there's a place where Elijah and Moses show up with Jesus during the life of Jesus. And I look at that and I go, oh, look at that, time travel. So ask me if there's time travel in the Bible, because Elijah and Moses show up in a different time.
How many years was it?
Generations.
Oh,
hundreds and hundreds. Yeah.
So logically, that wouldn't make sense.
No. Elijah and Moses didn't even live during the same eras.
Wow.
And so now they show up at the time of Jesus. I go, oh, maybe that's a window that time travel is actually possible. So I think there's a lot of glimpses into possibilities that we don't even consider because they seem impossible to us.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why you got to be careful with taking things too literally, right?
Yes, you take the literal things literally and the metaphorical things metaphorically, and you don't want to confuse the two.
Right.
But human beings are driven by stories, and stories are the most important things that shape us. And so when you read the stories in the Bible, a lot of times people get lost in the minutia of, is this detail exactly right, rather than where's the story trying to take us? There's this fascinating place in Genesis, I think in chapter 5, where it says that there were the sons of God and the daughters of men. And it says, in those days, heroes walked among us. And it's a description of almost two species of humans existing at the same time. And now we know that there's also Neanderthals who existed. And that I'm a part of this genetic research group that became a large public company, 23andMe.
Yeah.
And they can actually identify how much Neanderthal you have in your genetic code. And so I'm in the bottom 10%, but I have people I know that are in the top, like they have 90% of the indicators for Neanderthal.
Dang.
And so when you look at that, you think, oh, well, there were at least these two different forms of humans that existed.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so when I look at the Bible and I see this group they're called the sons of God, and then it says the other group called the daughters of men, could it be that there were two, in a sense, species of humanity? And by the way, the sons of God ones could have been from another planet, and then the daughters of men could have been from this one. So I know I'm probably going to open up a lot of controversial things for people. I'm going, I think it's okay to imagine these things.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to talk about them, and I love to explore them.
I think you should. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
That's the problem with certain communities. They're so closed-minded on certain things.
Yeah, everything has to be what everyone's believed in the past.
Right.
Which is why they thought when Copernicus started talking about, the different shaping of the solar system. I mean, just the idea that the sun doesn't revolve around the earth, but the earth revolves around the sun was considered heresy. The idea that the earth was round and not flat was considered heresy.
Right.
Every time we discover a new truth, we think it has violated an old truth. It has not violated an old truth. It violated an old perspective. It violated an old opinion, an old belief system. There is a difference between belief and truth. And we spend our lives trying to match our beliefs with truth.
Wow. I love that. Yeah, because as new data and new evidence comes, things change.
And so you want to be a person committed to truth. You do not want to be a person that's controlled by belief. Because if your beliefs are more powerful than truth, you'll reject the truth even when it's right in front of you.
And that's a perfect example of politics.
Absolutely.
Because people put so much belief in someone.
Yeah.
And there's no truth to it.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love that. Have you been back to El Salvador since you were a kid?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Oh,
In
nice.
fact, last year I was there and I met with President Nayib Bukele.
Oh, nice.
And so we had this incredible meeting together. We both spoke at the same event on communication. And then afterwards we had some time and he was telling me, this is incredible because I didn't know this about him, but he was telling me, he goes, there were, I think he said 5 miracles that have made the transformation of El Salvador possible. This is the way the president's talking.
Wow.
And because I don't know if you know this, but El Salvador was the most violent country in the world for 40 years or so.
Yeah.
And now it's the safest country in the Americas. And it's extraordinary what he's done in just 5 years. But he said, if we did not have these miracles take place, we could not see this transformation of our country. I asked him to name them, so I started naming them. But one of them is really interesting. I think there were like 5 major gangs, like MS-13, and which is one of the most notorious gangs in the world. And he said they went to one of the gangs and said, we want you to help us capture the other gang. And then they went to another gang, said, help us capture this other gang. And he said, if the gangs had realized that we were going to get them all, they would have helped us get the other ones. But somehow they were blinded to this obvious reality that if they helped the government, eventually it would go after them and they were able to capture all the gangs. The other thing is there were at least 70,000 killers in these gangs.
Wow.
And assassins. And if they had decided on one day to oppose the government's infiltration of the gangs, and all of them killed one person, it would have been the most violent single day in world history. But for some reason, the gangs didn't do what they know how to do, kill. They ran. And it's interesting, there are places in the Bible, by the way, where it says like the enemies of Israel ran and self-destructed even when Israel didn't have any weapons or any soldiers to fight them. That in a sense, God created this chaos and fear in them. And what Bukele said is there was literally a blindness and a chaos and fear that overtook the gangs because they would have won the war if they had decided to all move into violence instantly. But fear was overwhelming to them, and they began running for their lives, and they were captured.
That's a crazy story.
It's unbelievable.
That's the power of fear, though, right? And that's how a lot of people live in, so they're easily manipulated.
And it's because evil is always driven by fear. Hate is driven by fear. Love is not driven by fear. And so if you're not motivated by love and you're motivated by fear, you're always living in that dark space of what's going to do to me what I would do to someone else.
So when you were there, when you were super young, was that prevalent, the gang stuff?
Not when I was young, but as I was around 10 years old, they wouldn't allow me to go back, my brother and I. And
got too dangerous?
The country just got worse and worse and worse. And then I went back and visited several times over the years, and it was an incredibly violent time. I took Aaron when he was, I think, around 10 years old, and we got stuck out in the jungle area, and it became nighttime, and I had to have one of my friends make sure that he took Aaron into the jungle, and as the different troops came, and
dang,
and it was just one of those things where no matter who came, I would just talk to him in Spanish and say, "So good to see you."
Holy crap!
And it was a crazy world. We broke down on the side of a road, and this truck came up and pulled up in front of us. And the man starts yelling in Spanish, "Get in the truck, get in the truck. You'll get killed here." And so my family all jumped in the truck, my wife and daughter and uncle and aunt. And then my uncle panicked and said, "Go," and left me and Aaron there in the middle of the street for hours.
Whoa.
And I remember when he was just a little kid, and he goes, "Dad, why do these people have these giant swords?" Because everybody carries a machete.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, they just use it for work."
Oh my gosh.
But it was an interesting time. And I'm so excited that the country has a new future. And what's amazing, it's the leadership of one man, Nayib Bukele, who actually decided to end corruption and create a government that was actually for the benefit of the people.
That is so cool. I wonder if Mexico can pull that off.
Every country can.
You think so?
They just have to decide to not take the advantage of power. Whenever someone gets elected, they always run saying they're going to end the corruption.
Right.
And then when they have all that power, they decide to become corrupt.
You see it all the time.
All the time.
So what made this guy so special, you think?
I think some of it's his legacy and his family. And ironically, I think his grandfather, he's actually Palestinian.
Oh.
Bukele is Palestinian, but it became but grew up in El Salvador. His grandfather, I believe, built the first mosque in El Salvador and won the Nobel Peace Prize, if I remember correctly. But his wife and Bukele both became followers of Jesus. And it was actually his personal faith in Jesus that drove his moral compass to try to run for president to make the country better.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I thought you normally don't mix the two, but it sounds like he pulled it off.
He did, and he's a really, I think, noble and honorable person.
Yeah, what a cool experience. You got to meet him and chat with him.
Yeah, it was really
That's
wonderful.
like a once-in-a-lifetime type of thing.
I'm hoping it won't be once.
You got to get him on your podcast.
Yeah.
How's your show doing? I saw you and your son film a show together, right?
Yeah, me and Aaron, we have a great time on our podcast. We love it. It's so much fun, and we love the impact it has on people's lives. Just
nice.
Like, you have to love whenever you meet people who tell you they love the show and they remember something that impacted them so much.
Yeah.
And that's the same situation. I was just in a store the other day, and actually I was getting my haircut. This guy was in another chair. And he goes, Mind Shift. And I go, what? He goes, I listen to Mind Shift every week. And I love your guys' podcast. And it is fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. And it's just a great way to impact people.
You've changed some lives, man. I know one person that you prevented him from committing suicide.
Oh, wow.
And you don't even know him.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Next time he sees you, he said he's going to tell you, but just wanted you to know that you're out here changing and saving lives.
Oh, thank you so much. That's beautiful.
It's beautiful, man. You don't realize the impact because on social media, you just see the numbers. And I guess you don't like put faces to it.
Right.
But you can really change people. So hats off to you, man.
Yeah, you too.
And all the books you've written, it's crazy. You're really leaving an impact.
Oh, thank you. So, one of the things I've loved is getting to meet you, getting to know you. And,
likewise.
Yeah, because these conversations for me are really special. They're a lot of fun. You always ask crazy questions. And it goes in unexpected directions, which I think makes life so much more interesting.
Yeah, I think it's my ADHD. I'm all over the place, man.
That's all right. It's right. I got enough to match you.
Yeah, I love it. I'm having like 2 conversations when I'm talking to people. That's just the way my brain is. I'm all over the place.
But I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you believe in luck?
Luck.
Because that's one of the questions you're going to ask me.
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
I've been thinking about that.
I think I do. I believe in karma, so I think luck kind of plays into that a little bit.
How would you describe luck?
Like when something good happens to you that's unexpected, I guess, right? So I would call that luck.
Yeah, because so many highly successful people who are atheists believe in luck. Because there are good things that happen to us in life that we can't explain.
Right.
That we know we don't deserve. And that we know we're not a direct result of our work or genius or whatever it may be. And I was thinking about this myself, and I don't think I believe in luck, but I think I believe in principles and I believe in favor. And as I was processing this, because I do believe there are principles that if you apply them to your life, you get luckier and luckier and luckier. If you put in hard work, it's amazing how much, quote, luckier you get, right? If you invest in people and love people, it's amazing how much luck you end up because those people bring that luck into your life in a sense. But I also believe in favor. I love this quote from Paulo Coelho who says that the universe conspires in your favor. And I absolutely believe that the entire universe is leveraged in your direction. That God has designed the universe so that you could optimally experience the beauty of life. And if you will apply the principles, you experience that favor. And it's that weird thing of being strangely the right place at the right time. And you can't explain it. And I look at my life and I've had so many unexplainably good things happen to me. But I think if my perspective were different, I could also tell you I've had so many horrible things happen to me.
100%.
I actually think that luck is about perception. That lucky people see the opportunity in front of them. And unlucky people are blind to the opportunities in front of them.
That's deep. But that makes a lot of sense because some people are walking around here saying, oh, I'm so unlucky.
Yeah.
When things happen to them. But then other people are like, yeah, I'm so lucky I just won this money at the casino or something. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's all perspective.
It is. 5 weeks ago, I was playing this sport called padel. It's that racket sport with glass all the way around. And playing against my friend John Gordon and my son Aaron, and I had this guy who was one of the founders of One Oak in L.A. And Aaron dinked the ball over the net just to try to stick it to me because I was ahead 4-0, and he just wanted to score on me, and I ran full speed to try to stop it. Heard my hamstring explode. Went flying forward. Was about to hit the net with my head. Put my left arm down, and when I rolled over, the front part of my arm was going one direction, and then the second part of my arm was going the other direction. Completely severed the elbow, and it's a moment where you could go, "Oh, I'm so incredibly unlucky." Right, and I realized some of it was I don't have impulse control sometimes in sports. I just love to compete, right? Yeah. But I remember telling my wife a few days later because they took me to a surgeon, then I had to go to another doctor in another rehab place, and I said, if I hadn't have been injured, I wouldn't have met these incredible people, and they're already reading my books, and they're already being impacted by the thinking that I've spent my life shaping in the books. I said, so there's some part of me that I know this, quote, God didn't do this to me, but I do think I have this favor on me that even when something terrible happens to me, something really good comes out of it. And I think a lot of that is perspective. I could spend the whole time just going, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? Or I could go, oh, look at all the reasons why.
Right.
Something good come out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people that face nasty injuries, car accidents or whatever, and they get super depressed afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But you had the opposite approach, and then you ended up meeting these stem cell people who I met at your event.
Yeah.
And now you're almost back to normal already, right?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing super, super well. And I think lucky people have a different way of seeing life. And so maybe luck is something that's actually intrinsic, internal, rather than external and circumstantial.
For sure. Have you ever dabbled with psychedelics?
I haven't.
Really?
I'm insane enough to not need them.
I'm shocked.
I know, everyone is. Ironically, I think I've dabbled a lot in sleep deprivation.
Ooh.
When I was in college, I didn't go to bed for 6 days during finals.
So you were hallucinating during that for sure?
I was. I'm crazy. And I realized that a huge part of my natural ebb and flow for my creative processes was maybe self-induced sleep deprivation, and just allowed me to go to crazy places and dream and imagine things. But I've never done drugs, and I've actually never even been attracted to it, because I love I love my brain. Like, I have too much respect for my brain to do something to it that might forever alter it.
Okay.
And so I feel like, if you're a world-class athlete, like LeBron spends, $1.5 million every year on his body. And to me, my brain is more important than LeBron's body. And so I just would never put something in my brain that might forever alter it from becoming its full optimal self.
Yeah, the risk to reward ratio isn't there for you.
Yeah, it isn't for me.
I could see that for most drugs. Yeah, especially with the psychedelics.
Yeah,
some people take those and never come back the same. And
it's interesting because one of the things that I noticed with different psychedelics is that it creates an odd sense of narcissism. Because when and I've had to deal with this a lot, and I would say even with ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Where everyone has these, quote, transcendental experiences. They meet God in their own way or some, higher power.
Right.
And then they think they've achieved a level of enlightenment in that moment. And then they come afterwards and they crash because that experience is induced by an external factor. See, I want my most transcendent moments to be produced by internal factors. And so what ends up happening is that they believe they've achieved a level of enlightenment, and it's very challenging to try to speak into their life and go, hey, you're not actually doing better. and you're actually struggling with depression, and they can't hear you. And so what I would say is that, people say, well, you have to do the hard work. Well, the hard work was still necessary with or without the psychedelics.
Yeah, I could see that because people have this mindset where they take something and everything, all your problems just suddenly go away.
It's just not real.
It's not real.
No, you may not be that religiously inclined, but like psychedelics to me are very similar to some things like Pentecostalism, where you have those ecstatic experiences, and in religion, and you have all these manifestations. We humans want all of our life problems to be solved in one eccentric or esoteric experience,
right?
Whether it's spiritual or psychedelic. life doesn't change like that. Life changes when your character changes. And as you develop your character, you change your circumstances.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process for sure. How do you view dreams? Because I have an interesting take on the dream world, but I'd love to hear yours.
Interesting enough, I have like a neurological condition that they told me about years ago where part of my brain's always on, part of it's always off. You know?
Wow.
And so I live in a continuous dream state. And I wrote a book called Wide Awake, ironically. And a huge part of it is I dream when I'm awake, the way other people dream when they're asleep.
So you see stuff while you're awake?
Yeah, and the downside of it is, since I was probably 5 years old, when I have nightmares asleep, I wake up and I'm still in the nightmare.
Whoa!
It's really traumatic, and I wish I could say I found a way out of that, but I still struggle with that. I think we were in Copenhagen, or I think Copenhagen, where Aaron and I were in a hotel, and I took a nap like at 3 in the afternoon. I don't usually sleep in the daytime, but we were exhausted. And the moment I fell asleep, I went into the state, and then I woke up, but I was still in the dream, and I'm usually having some kind of a near-death struggle, and I text Aaron or call him, and I say, "Hurry, come here! I'm dying. I want to say goodbye." And so my son's like going down elevators trying to get to me. I'm walking down the hall, but I'm still in a dream.
Wow!
So I've had this all of my life, and so I actually think that the dreams and nightmares have a very significant relationship to us. That there is no emotion you can hold without a story. The reason most of us can't change a negative emotion is that we don't change the story that holds that emotion. Every negative emotion has a story that allows it to exist within you.
Wow.
Every positive emotion has a story within you. Dreams wrap around the positive emotions you have. Nightmares wrap around the negative emotions you have. And so even in your unconscious or subconscious state, you're still telling a story that holds the emotion you're struggling with or living with.
So you believe your emotions manifest in your dreams?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I used to have a lot of nightmares when I was depressed.
Yeah, me too.
I had bad anxiety. Nightmares almost every day, but that is terrifying that you wake up and you're still in the nightmare.
It's terrifying for my family.
Yeah, because I use that when I have a nightmare. I purposely wake up and then I'm out, so it goes away.
It's hard because, like Kim, she's married to me for 40 years, so she's dealt with this a lot, and she has to like talk me down. She goes, "You're asleep. It's not real," and she tries to talk me back, and I have to ground myself. I hear her voice, but I'm in this other world, this other reality, and it's like her voice is being spoken into this other space. I'm living in that moment.
Wow.
And I hear this little distant voice, and I try to grab it, and I go, that's what's real. But in my mind, that's the dream. And what I'm in is what's real. And I have to grab onto her voice and go, okay, that's what's real. That's what's real. And it pulls me out.
Yeah.
And it's an odd thing because many times I feel like if I let go of this moment, I'm going to die.
Wow.
And so it's a really terrifying. I've died 1,000 times.
In your dream?
Yeah.
Wow, because they say you don't know how to recreate that in dream setting.
You know what? I heard that for a long time, but I actually I went past the point of dying in dreams.
Damn.
And experienced that state afterwards. And so I don't actually talk about this a whole lot, but but this is a part of just my own journey. Human beings are just designed in such complex ways, and I've worked with like 3 neuro clinics over the years, and I remember I walked into this neuroscientist's office, and he had a blackboard, and they had the word truck on the wall. Then they had the word Lamborghini on the wall, and all these other things written. And I said, "Hey, what's this?" And they go, "You're not supposed to be in here." I go, "But I'm here." So let's talk about what's on your board. They say, "Well, this is a language we use internally. We don't use it with our patients." He said, "Some people's brains are like trucks, and you can crash them and crash them and crash them. They're going to be fine. And other people's brains are like Lamborghinis, and if you dent them, they're just broken." And if you look back, like at different athletes, let's say, like Joe Frazier took a lot of punches, but he was just as lucid by the end of his life. He's still alive, I think he is, but in his later life than he was when he was young. Muhammad Ali took fewer punches, but the PTSD and the mental abuse was more severe for him. And I think it's because from a mental state, like Joe Frazier would be more of a truck. and Muhammad Ali was more of a Lamborghini mentally. And I actually think that people who are born with a little bit more genius in them are more mentally fragile. And then people who are more grounded, maybe not with an IQ over 145 or something like that. Doesn't mean they're not intelligent. They're very intelligent, but they have a more grounded personality. They're less fragile. They can take a lot more abuse. And I think that's where many times why artists are so many times depressed or really deal with mental illness or neurosis is because their brains are actually Lamborghinis that are very fragile.
Yeah.
And the same kind of emotional or relational abuse that they experienced caused more damage, and another kid had the same, but it didn't damage them as much.
I could see that. That is the one downside with high IQ.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. High IQ makes you very fragile.
Yeah, my dad had a 150, and he just, very fragile.
Yeah.
Like it was like a glass. Like he would just have anger issues and all these mental health problems. It was tough.
Yeah, and so I think that you have to have a strategy to know how to understand who you are and how to best handle that fragility.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and so I look at it and go, I'm a lot of broken pieces in my brain, but I just let all the light strike through the cracks. And it's helped me become so much more, I think, empathetic and helpful to other people. And I just don't see any of it as a liability anymore.
Wow. I love it. I wonder if learning how to lucid dream would help you. Have you looked into that?
How to lose the dream?
Lucid dream.
Oh, dream while you're awake.
Do you know what that is?
No, tell me.
Lucid dream is when you're aware you're in a dream and you can control the dream.
I've worked on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's certain dreams I have that are so overwhelming that they're really, they're hard to get out of.
Right.
And I have kind of developed a process to find my way back out of them. And ironically, here's the crazy thing. In those dreams when I'm dying, the only thing that actually sets me free?
What is it?
To be willing.
Willing to die?
To let go.
Huh.
And when I'm willing to let go, I actually come back and I'm okay.
That is interesting.
It's the fear of death, not death, that has power over us.
Wow. So you don't fear death, though?
And, well, clearly in those dreams I do.
I'm just wondering why you're having that dream, because it seems like a recurring dream for you.
Yes, it has been throughout my life. And, I think this whole idea that people, when someone says, I'm not afraid to die, my immediate thought is, then you haven't learned to love. Because the moment you love someone deeply, you're willing to die for them, but you don't want to leave them.
Right.
And so I actually think the more you love, the less you want to leave early.
That's a good perspective. Yeah, you don't hear the flip side of it, because there are people that are like, yeah, I'll die today.
Yeah,
but they're
I'm not afraid of dying. I just don't want to yet give up the beauty of what I have.
Right. Yeah, you got kids, you got wife, friends.
I got a beautiful life.
You do, man. Yeah. And you built it from the ground up.
That is true. Maybe from the basement.
From the basement of El Salvador. Come a long way, man. Dude, it's been awesome as always. Can't wait to do this again with you.
Hey, thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, with the 7 frequencies of communication, there's an assessment that we built over the last 2 years. A person can go on to our website, that's 7frequencies.com, or to mine, erwinmcmanus.com. Pick up the assessment, find out their 3 core frequencies, and I'd love for you to take it.
I'm going to take it. Yeah, I'll post the results on my Instagram.
That'd be
cool.
Fun.
Thanks for coming on. We'll link the book below.
All right, thank you.
See you guys.